Welcome to the Counter Narrative Podcast, a show designed to change the way we talk and think about education. By sharing stories of successes and triumphs, we aim to challenge the dominant narrative that often negatively portrays our disenfranchised populations. I'm your host, Charles Williams, an urban educator for more than 15 years, a current school principal in Chicago, an educational consultant, an equity advocate, and the co-host of Inside the Principal's Office. Let's get started. All right, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Counter Narrative Podcast. Excited as always to be here and doing another episode, and of course connecting with people that I have had the honor and privilege of spending time with in the virtual space. The guest that we have today, she and I met via a Wednesday chat, which morphed over into Voxer, and that's really where our conversation stayed. And so I'm very happy that we're finally connecting here. Had a little bit of a principal conversation before we got started because the life of a principal, it is something. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Principal Trelane. If you could do me a favor and just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, how you got into education, and the one thing that I love the most, something interesting about yourself.
Okay. Well, thank you, Charles. I'm super excited to be here. I consider it an honor, and thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course.
So I am an elementary school principal. I work in a small city called Chelsea, Massachusetts, and I am a native of Boston, so I live in Boston as well. I have been in education for 25 years this year. So that is super exciting for me. I remember being about 10 years in thinking, am I going to make it to 30, to 20, to 25, 30? So I'm really excited. Yeah, no, it's wonderful. Let's see, you said something that interesting. Fact about me. So I guess the interesting fact is that I was born and raised in Boston. And as you can see, I do not have a Bostonian accent.
No, you do not.
And I'm very proud of that.
I thought you were going to come out like the Matt Damon, like, I park my car. Like, I can't do it.
But I can when I need to, but okay. I try to steer clear.
Nice. My wife and I went to Boston, I want to say it was 3-4 years ago now. Right around the time, actually, right about now, this weekend. Yeah, This weekend, 3 or 4 years ago, we went. She is a lover of things like paranormal. So we actually went to Boston and then we went up to Salem.
Okay.
So she's a huge fan of Hocus Pocus and the witches. And so we spent a weekend out there, and it was a great time. And we found somebody with the authentic Boston accent. And she was just like, there it is.
Yes, when it's real, it's unmistakable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Trelane, I want to say before we jump in, obviously it's October, and as a principal to another principal, I appreciate you. It is National, Principal Appreciation Month, and we don't get a lot of appreciation. So definitely want to say I appreciate you, and especially 25 years. That's remarkable.
Yeah. I appreciate you too. You got to give it back to each other.
Thank you. Can I ask, how long have you been in the principalship?
So I am a first year pandemic principal. So this is my second year as a principal. Yes. So I call this the remix.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I was gonna say you cut your chops during a pandemic. That's
I did.
Man. Kudos to you doing that. Because if you're still here after that, that's.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I remember having teachers and stuff come in and I was like, look, if you can survive this, you're good.
It's true. It really is true. Yeah.
Well,
but this is my dream job. So, I took a pandemic to give me my dream job. So I wanted to be a principal when I was 14 years old.
Nice.
So this was it. And I said, okay, if it took a pandemic, then all right, we'll just go with it.
There you go. There's your silver lining to the chaos, right? Wonderful. So of course we are here to have a conversation about the counter narrative, right? We know, and especially spending as much time in education as we have, there's a lot of negative conversations out there when we sit down to discuss data, when we're discussing just education in general.
Mhm.
So I'm curious if you could share with us an experience that you may have had where you're like, hey, no, look, here's a positive. I know, right? A lot of people say negative things around this, but here's
Mhm.
my experiences and here's a positive.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, I feel like I try to do that every day. Because this right now, this is the hardest time in education, I
Hmm.
think, for teachers, for students, for families, and then for leaders. And so we're all going through, but in very different ways.
Hmm.
And I think that trying to find those silver linings, trying to find those opportunities to have joy is super important. So, I mean, I think that even in conversations with my teachers, it's like, yes, we know that our students are coming in with schooling loss, and I do not like the term learning loss.
Yeah.
I don't believe that learning was lost. I do believe that there's been schooling experiences that they've lost, right? However, the students have come back with like all this vigor, and they are just they're vibrant, and they are so excited to be in school. And they're just like, hi, Principal Clark. I just walk in the cafeteria, and it's like you would think that I was like Michelle Obama. But I think it's just that those opportunities that they have not had, and so they are just really, really just digging into them. And so when we're talking about the needs that students have, I'm always, trying to ask people to think about what are they bringing.
Mm.
What do they have? So let's not focus on what skills they do not have. Yes, we need to know what they are because we need to try to build up and accelerate that learning. However, we don't need to remediate. It doesn't, it's not going to support our students. And actually what I think it will do, and research has been already been done, that if we try to remediate, then we're going to continue to have an opportunity and an achievement gap. And we definitely don't need that.
No, absolutely. I'm glad you said that. See, there's that absolutely. We talked about that earlier. So then I was like, there it is.
But it works. But it
I
works.
was like, it's done. I got my one out. We're done. We're done. Um, so I love the fact that you bring up this strength, kind of focus on the strengths. I know we've been having a lot of conversations around it. I know on the Inside the Principal's Office show, we just talked about it. And it's absolutely true. It is so easy to say, well, they don't have X, Y, and Z, a family home or whatever it may be. And it's like, yeah, but what are we going to do about that? Right.
Hmm. Hmm.
And those things may be true, but they're also coming in equipped with many, many things. And how can we capitalize on that? And I, again, my teachers ask me all the time, well, we're supposed to move forward, but there's these gaps, right? How do we
Hmm.
balance that? And it's a challenging thing because, yeah, if we only focus on these gaps, well, we're still trying to move forward and we're
Exactly.
never, ever going to get caught up. So,
Hmm.
I'm curious in that time then with and having these conversations with teachers, do you have any of, that story that you like to share with people to say, like, yeah, Principal Clark, that's all fine and dandy, but is it real? Like, do you have any of those shining examples where you reach into your pocket and like, yeah, no, here, this was something that actually happened?
Ooh, story. So, I think my life is full of stories. So I guess I guess maybe the story of even coming into getting my dream job. I spent about 9 years as an assistant principal,
Okay.
and that was not because I was trying to stay for 9 years as an assistant principal. Um, but once I started like seriously looking for a principalship and really feeling like this was definitely the next step for me,
Hmm.
it seemed like the universe just collaborated with me, and it was really amazing. So um, I got a phone call out of the blue from someone that I had a not a deep relationship with, just an acquaintance, and said, "Hey, I have a job for you." And I said, "Oh." okay. I said, did you know that I was looking for a job? And she said, no. She said, I just saw this and I thought of you, so you need to apply. So when things like that happen,
Hmm. Hmm.
you just kind of go, okay, and you hit send, and that's just what you do. And it's just been so wonderful because I feel like I've landed in a great place, with super supportive administration and great kids and families and teachers, really strong teachers. So, and of course, not everything is rosy everywhere we go, right? It's not rainbows and unicorns, but the opportunities for growth are really, I think, what helps me every day. Even the days where it's tough, the days where it goes so smoothly, you go, wait, did that really
Yeah.
did that
Am I
really happen?
awake?
Did I miss something? But I think it's those opportunities to look at um, how far we've come and all the things that we've been through and that we're able to speak into the lives of others, to speak into the lives of our students and the lives of our families. I remember it. I'm thinking about it. I remember that I had a conversation with a parent, and the parent was really struggling at home with some family situations. And I have had the opportunity to actually tell a little bit of my personal
Mm.
story to that parent. And, she was so incredibly grateful and that someone actually understood what she was going through. And it became such a great relationship after that. And she knew that it was just about the connection with me was going to help her son improve. And it actually did. So those things are really what kind of just keeps me in this game.
I have you read the book The Alchemist?
I have not. I've heard a lot about it
Yeah.
though.
So first of all, I would highly recommend it. So um, I don't know if he's watching or if he's listening. Asael. So Asael Ruvakaba down from Texas. He
Yeah.
has been posting all these books he's been reading.
Uh-huh.
And one of them was The Alchemist. I was like, that seems interesting. So we had a lab, or we were creating a lab in my building, and all kinds of stuff's in there. And we've had stuff for years, and we're cleaning it out, getting rid of things. And lo and
Mhm.
behold, there was the book, The Alchemist.
Mm.
I was like, well, that's
Mhm.
strange because I just said I wanted to read it, and there it is. And then I read it,
Mhm.
and it
Mhm.
talks in that book about that when you give into your purpose, when you say, this is what I want to do, that the
Mhm.
universe conspires to help you. And so
Mhm.
as you were telling your story, it's like,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But we spend
That's
so much time pushing back, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And even the experiences that we have and where we feel that others are not necessarily pushing us forward,
Mm,
right? It really is that heart that is so huge, and having maintaining that passion, like regardless of the situations and even sometimes people who are not your cheerleaders sometimes,
yeah.
it's really saying, I'm so convicted that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I literally don't have any other thing that I want to do. Um, and I've not really even had opportunities to. So that even just kind of further deepens the fact that education is what I'm supposed to be doing in life.
Mm, I love it. I love it. I love it. You know, it and it makes me wonder because I'm seeing a connection here. We just talked about this idea of a growth mindset, focusing on our strengths, not ignoring so much, but not hyper focusing on our weaknesses. We do it for not just our students, but for ourselves. And we
Mm,
allow those fears that we have to prevent us from pursuing our purposes, from pursuing our passions,
mhm,
then the universe isn't conspiring then because it's waiting on us, and we're like, how come it's not happening?
mhm,
So
mhm,
I'm curious in your experience with these things, because we're talking about it, we've both had those experiences. Why do you think so many people, not necessarily just educators, but people in general, focus on the negative and don't uplift the positive?
Wow. Hopefully, I make a lot of money if I answer this question.
I'm trying to set it up for you.
Wow. I think, unfortunately, that our our society and just our acculturation kind of lives in
Hmm.
negativity. And I think that that's why it's so hard to push through it to get to the positivity, right? So much we can say, okay, that went wrong, or that's going to go wrong, or I'm worried about this, or, that can't happen. So all of that, I think, is why there's such a huge movement towards positivity, towards, working for good, and thinking
Hmm.
that things will work out for your good, and then transmitting that to others. You've got all kinds of folks on Instagram and everywhere, posting positivity quotes. You've got even there's a major, I forget what school it was, but a school leader that I knew, she has a degree in positive psychology.
Hmm.
Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. But so it really suited her because she was very much a positive person.
That would be an interesting majored in
Yeah, right.
positivity.
I know. But I think it's so important so that we can actually, like, live this life. There's so many things that go wrong. Like I said, it's not like everything is perfect all the
Right.
time. I've been through things. We've all been through things, but I think always looking for that gem, that nugget that can say, you know what, yes, this happened, and as opposed to, yes, this happened, but.
Mm. I like that. You're leading into my other question, but it's okay. We could come back to
Okay.
it. No, it's fine. It's fine. It just it reminds me of I've and I'm sure as a principal, right? We have students who enter our buildings, and the student brings with them a history, right?
Mm,
And it's very easy for the staff in our building to look at that student without knowing the student and saying,
mhm,
well, their paperwork says this or their IEP says that, or and we create this idea of who the person is. And so
mm,
not too
mm,
long ago I started a practice when those students come into my building. I We sit down and I could see the kids nervous, all these people are there. And I said, well, tell me about yourself, right? What are you good at? And they just
mm,
look and like, what? And it's like, yeah, I
mhm.
want to know who you are. What are you good at?
Yeah.
Like, I see the paperwork. I know all the
Mhm.
bad, and I'll ask you about the bad. But I want to know what's good there. I want to know what you're good at. Who's the real student sitting in front of me? And
Mm,
it's my hope that it starts to reshape the perceptions, because now you have a student who might sit there who's, I don't know, very articulate or saying, I really enjoy doing this, or, and they're like, well, but the paperwork doesn't say any of this. Like, no,
mm,
no, it doesn't.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I just I love the fact that you're talking about this, you know, the not but the and.
Mhm,
Uh,
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, I think, being a school leader versus being a teacher, because in that regard, because as a teacher, you're kind of expected to look into the students' files and find out all of these
mhm,
things about your students, right? And then as a principal, you got 502 lovelies, and there's no way you're going into every single one's file, right? So we get the opportunity to actually interact with them in the hallway and get a piece of their story, in the cafeteria
mhm,
and get a piece of their story, outside at arrival or dismissal, right? So it's, I think, I love that, because I can get something sometimes that a teacher might not get, right? And I'm always talking to teachers about the importance of building relationships. And I'm still working on that. I'll always continue to be working on that. But I'm so grateful for those really authentic, snapshots that I can get sometimes of students, so that we can really try to get to know who they are and their strengths. Our district has a theme this year, actually, and it's knowing our students by name, strength, and story.
mm,
And so we're working on being able to do that. It's so important too, because as we were talking about earlier, looking at all the things that the kids don't
Right.
have or they are, struggling with, but what are they good at, and what is the aspect of their story, and then being able to share parts of our name and our strengths and our stories with them as well, because that goes both ways, and that's actually what I think um, really defines the
Mhm.
relationship, because I've given you a piece of me, and now you're able and feel comfortable enough to give me a piece of yourself.
I'm not sure if you're familiar, and I'm sure you are, right? We have very similar circles. But
Mhm.
Sloan,
Yeah, Sloan
yes,
Joseph.
yes. So
Yeah.
I told her, I said I always have to give her credit now because instead of saying relationships, she and I we talked about rapport, right? Which takes it to a
Mm,
deeper level to say it's not just that we get along, right? A relationship,
mm,
but rapport is it's mutual respect, right?
mm,
You
mhm,
give
mhm,
me and I give you, and it builds this mutual respect, this mutual trust, which is a lot deeper than just a relationship because you could have a
mm.
relationship with almost anybody, but you don't have rapport
Right.
with everybody.
Mm. That's really deep. Yeah, I love
I,
that.
so I'm curious, what are some of the things that you're doing? And I know this is a tangent, but I just want to know. You said names, strengths, and
Strength
stories.
story.
So,
Hmm.
you have 500 something kids in your building. So, what are you doing to try to go beyond names to strengths and stories?
I'm still working on it,
Hey,
honestly.
it's a work. It's 500 kids. That's
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think my favorite thing is going into classrooms to do a read aloud, because then that really helps me to dig into that, and kids get a chance to ask me questions, and then I get to ask them questions, and that's the real beauty again of being a school leader, because you can kind of go in and you float in and out, right? But also, yes, obviously with conversations with teachers, just to kind of get a little glimpse of what they are learning about students, that's always really helpful. um, and really, the cafeteria.
yeah, yeah.
You get to know a lot about kids in the cafeteria,
Hmm.
and they're sharing, oh, I'm going to Chuck E. Cheese for my birthday, or my birthday's in April, or I got a new dog, and so they'll just randomly say those things. So that's also very, very helpful, and I get to share little things about my children, when I hear connections to things that they're telling me. So I don't really have a defined strategy necessarily, but I'm really just trying to get students to just see me as a part of their school experience, and not just this, the scary principal in the
Hmm.
office. Like, I don't want that. And I think it's hard. Some kids are just kind of like, they just know, like, I'm going to the principal, I don't, oh, there's the principal. And
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
like, no, like, yes, I'm the principal, but I'm here to support you just like your teachers, and I'm here to support your teachers. And it's definitely something that I'm continuing to work on, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work,
yeah.
but it's a lot of fun to just be able to do that.
Well, I know you said that you don't have a specific strategy, but it does sound like you're saying, "Hey, look, I'm just spending time with my kids," and I mean it.
Yeah.
It's like having those conversations. I don't know if you do, but I do with my district, where they're like, "Well, I need that," and I'm like, I'm doing this thing. You can't really like put it on a paper, right? Like I'm
Right.
spending time
Yeah.
with my kids. How do I capture that? Like,
Yeah. There's no spreadsheet for that.
well, I appreciate it.
Mm-mm.
I pride myself, and I have far less students than you, by the way, so it's a little easier. But
Mm-hmm.
I pride myself on knowing every single student's name. They say it to me all the time. How do you know all of our names? I said it's part of my job. But I'm going to now
Yeah.
challenge myself. So I appreciate you to say, what's the strength in a story? Can I say
Yeah.
something about every kid? You're
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I can call you by name, but do I know
Right.
something?
Yeah. Yeah.
Beyond that piece of paper, beyond what your report says, do I know something about you?
Yeah. 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 I'm still working on it and getting to know my babies. So.
Well, I appreciate the suggestion and the challenge, even if that wasn't your intention. It is now. So thank you, thank you. So, Trelane, I know, and I can't believe like we're already almost at a half an hour here. This conversations fly by. So as we're having conversations here, if you were to give an educator, I know I said, some things you were saying you don't have a specific strategy, but if there's somebody who's listening, right? We've talked a lot about focusing on strengths,
Mhm,
students as well as our own, right?
mhm,
Recognizing that whatever entities or powers that may be, that they're pushing us towards a destination. And just as much as we have to figure out what are our strengths and live in those so we could reach them, we've got to do the same thing for our students. And sometimes it's
mhm,
scary, as you said, right? It's the world in which we live harbors on negativity. All you have to do is turn on the morning news, and we know that.
mhm. Yeah.
So, if you were to give educators just one tip, one idea to say, hey, your students have all of these strengths, you have all of these strengths, this is how you can begin to identify those and recognize them and amplify them on a daily basis, what would one tip or idea be?
Ooh. Um, I would have to say that the people that see you in the work and the people that see you outside of the work who can name those strengths, listen to
Mm,
them. Listen to them. Because we can be such harsh critics, and I am like award winner, you know, a number one on that. But when people say something to you and say, wow, that was really amazing how you did that, um, you have to take that. You have to own that and know that if they didn't really believe that, chances are they wouldn't have
mm,
said it. Right. And so, and also the people that don't see you in your work environment, but actually know you as a person, thinking about those strengths that they see in you and translating those and taking those with you into your work, then that allows you to be more authentically you. And that's exactly what your students and teachers need.
mm. That's powerful. That is powerful. I feel you because I'm that person. I recently I was in a space with my co-host Mac, and he was talking, and I remember telling my wife this because he was talking about me, and I was sitting there like the awkward happy birthday, like I don't know what to do, right? And she was like, "But babe, it's all true." It's like, but it's
Mm,
weird hearing it because I think, like you said,
mhm.
we're so accustomed to giving that out and loving on other people that when it comes to us, if we're not ready for it, we're like, wait, what do we do with
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. Yeah. That literally happened to me yesterday. So that like dawned.
Well, that's good. That's good. Did you
Yeah. No,
accept
it
it?
was I did, and I had to actually think about it, and I'll even share. We were having a conversation with a parent, and actually two difficult
Mm,
conversations with parents. And one of the staff members that was in the meeting with me afterwards, she said, "You were just amazing. That this the how you were able to capture the parent and to get into their heads a little bit, to give them a little bit of your own experiences. Like that was just masterful." And I was like, "Hmm, thanks." Yeah. I said, "Actually, I think that that is something that I'm fairly good at, and I don't do that very often, but I had to really think back and of all the times that I've had conversations and conferences with families, even when I was a teacher. I really think that I can pride myself on being able to deliver tough
mhm.
news to families, but also to encourage them, and to give them some hope that things are going to get better.
Nice. I love it.
So
Well, I'll tell you what. I have a scheduled meeting coming up with the challenging parents. I'm going to be calling you. I know.
I got you. I got you. Once you're in my PLN, I got you.
I love it. Well, so there you go. Right. So I accepting the accolades from those around us, learning to accept it as uncomfortable as it may be, but also giving those out, right? As teachers, making sure that we are
Mhm.
doing the same thing for our students because the chances are they're not always hearing it. And as we've
Mm-hmm.
talked about in the show before, right, there's enough negative conversations and conversations that they've probably internalized and said, well, this is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So they may be
Mm-hmm.
just as uncomfortable hearing, hey, you're good at that. Like, why are you saying that? What are you up to?
Yeah,
You
for
know, and then of
sure.
course
Yeah.
we as leaders modeling that by doing the same thing for our teachers and never
Mm-hmm.
hesitating to give them praise so they understand that and give praise to their own students. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
see, you were nervous
Mhm.
about this.
That was, you didn't hear my absolutely.
I didn't.
That was a good.
Okay. I was being very cognizant not to say. For those of you listening, they're like, "What are they talking about?" I admitted earlier that I realized that I used the word absolutely a lot. So I tried very hard to get it say it one time this episode. And I mean that was twice, but it wasn't used in context, so it's only once. But
Mm, you did. You did well, and then I
thank you.
backed you
Thank
up.
you. See,
So you're good.
I'm accepting. I'm accepting. Oh, Trelane, it has been a pleasure connecting with you, and I'm sure, and I'm hoping, and if the listeners, if they don't think it, I had a pleasure, so whatever. So
Me too.
So how can they get in touch with you? Because I'm sure they did. I'm sure they're like, this woman is phenomenal. I want to be able to connect with her. So what are some ways they can find you? How can they connect with you?
Yeah. So Twitter is probably a
Okay.
good place. It's at Trey Clark Leads on Twitter and Instagram. And it's probably the best ones. I do have a blog. I need to ramp it up, but it's TreyClarkLeads.com.
Wonderful, wonderful. So if you are out there on the socials, please make sure that you connect. And I will, of course, include that information in the show notes so you can find it there as well. Shalane, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being, of course, a guest on the show, helping me to have an amazing evening after a hectic day and a rushed commute. I appreciate that. But
Yeah.
more importantly, thank you for the 25 years that you have committed to education and that you are continuing to commit. So I just want to say, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity.